Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our April Facebook Live. We're very excited to have everyone here, both from the NVLD project and from our co-hosts today from Social City. So welcome if you're new to the NVLD project and coming here from Social City. Thank you for joining us. We're so excited to have you. Today, we are going to talk about transitioning from a school schedule and that kind of structured environment to summer, because that is a big transition for a lot of kids and can come with its own complications and some strategies and tips that we want to share with you today to help you do that. And to do that, I have Jaclyn Zimmel from Social City. She is the program director over there. Some of you may recognize her if you are coming and joining us from that organization. And she's going to share some of that information about what that looks like and ways to make that transition easier. If you are not watching live, this will be recorded on Facebook and we will upload it to YouTube later, so you can always go back and watch it. While we are chatting today, feel free to leave any comments or questions down in our comment section and we'll answer those as we go or at the very end during a Q&A. And yeah, I think that's all of our housekeeping. So I'm going to turn it over to you because I'm really excited to kind of talk through some of these strategies that you've come up with.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. Really happy to be here. So I'll jump right in. Okay, so yeah, we're going to be talking about what you can do now to start to prepare your child or your children for summer. So just a brief introduction to Social City if you aren't familiar with us. We are a team of SLPs. We do have some also like other related professionals, but mostly SLPs focusing on social emotional development. We are New York City, Long Island, and Queens based. We offer weekly social skills group classes. We also offer full day summer programming, individual sessions, facilitated play dates, and monthly virtual workshops for parents and caregivers. So if you're interested in joining us for any of that or learning more, you can feel free to email me at director@socialcitynyc.com, and I'm happy to share links for our virtual workshops or more information about any of our services.
And we did a Facebook Live last year also, just kind of going over some of that. So I'm going to drop that YouTube link in the comments for anybody that might want to catch up and watch that later.
Great, thank you. Okay, so why start to prepare for summer now? So once school ends, so do those natural social interactions and situations that come with being in a classroom or at school daily. Today, we're going to discuss how to continue working on social skills with kids over the summer and what are some things that can be done leading up to summer to ease the transition. Okay, so some changes to potentially prepare for. Leaving the social setting that your child has been in maybe for 9 months, it might now at this point be really comfortable, safe. They might have established peer relationships and adult relationships. They may also be entering a new social environment like camp. If they are not having a set camp schedule, finding new social opportunities in the summer, meeting new people, definitely a change in daily routine schedule. Even if they are going somewhere with a lot of structure, it likely is not going to be the same as their school structure was. So that will be a change. If you have any vacation or travel plans, that can be a shift for a lot of kids, a change in physical setting and distance from peers. So if you have a slightly older child who has maybe local friends or something like that, if you're traveling, they might not have that same peer group. There is the potential for lack of routine and structure in the summer. And there's also the potential for a lot more opportunities for screen time, which is just something to consider. Okay, so children are going to have different feelings about school ending. I know some of the kids I work with are really excited for summer. I know some of the kids I work with are really not so excited for summer. They love their school, they love their friends, they love their teachers. So just keeping in mind that your child may have different feelings or mixed feelings. So it's important to validate any of these feelings. So having open communication about upcoming changes. So giving them the facts, if your child's a little older, they might know these, but I just think laying it out. When is school ending? What are the summer plans? Encourage your child to express how they're feeling. So ask, how are you feeling about school ending. How are you feeling about the summer? You can even turn it into like a positives and like a pros and cons. So what are great things about summer? Oh, what are some things maybe you're not looking forward to in summer? And use your child's learning style and strengths to incorporate tools that would help them. And we have some examples on the next slide. So here are some visual tools that might help children prepare. So you can use a calendar with a countdown to the last day of school. They can cross it off as they go. You can also add special events to that, which likely at the end of school, there might be some special events coming up. You can also use Post-its. I know I work with some kids who really love like the physical ripping off and then it's in the garbage. You can also use that for countdowns towards vacations or other upcoming summer plans, maybe like the start of camp or something like that. And then you can also use a calendar for the the whole summer. You know, you can just have a June, July, August calendar ready and add anything. And again, depending on the age of your child and their skill set, it can be visual, it can be pull off, it can be tangible, or for maybe an older child or a reading child, you can, you know, physically make a calendar together, write down the events and bring them into the planning process.
I love that idea for getting them excited too. If they do have any kind of nervous feelings towards it coming up, I think that just kind of builds some excitement and helps them get in a different mindset too.
Definitely. And I think for some kids, like I know I've run into this when I just ask, like, what are you excited for? And it could be like nothing. So I think if you're anticipating that, you can also make it into a little bit more structured, where maybe it is like a craft project you're doing together. And there's, you know, two boxes under what you're excited for and two boxes what you're not excited for. So that way it's more like we're filling in a box. Like there's more of an expectation to share something.
Yeah,
Um,
cool.
and then there are so many great books out there. There's a link here with 10 recommendations. But there really are resources for all ages, just about upcoming changes. Those specifically go to the end of the school year. But some of them focus a bit too on like graduation. So if your kid's having a ceremony or something, those could really be great prep because that day can be a bit overwhelming, exciting, maybe sad, lots of feelings. So I would definitely recommend checking out those books and then incorporating activities that your child already enjoys to prepare for the upcoming change. So if they like arts and crafts, they can make crafts as end of the year gifts for their teachers. So it's really preparing them. There is time put into it. It's also a nice gesture for the teacher, but of course, then your child is getting some of that prep into like, oh, I'm giving this because the end of the year is coming up. So it's important to prepare your child. But it's also important to think ahead now. It seems so far away, but it will come quick for what opportunities there are going to be to practice socializing this summer. So just thinking ahead, being in social situations is practice, and any skill, social skills or not social skills, the more you practice, the better you get and the more confident you feel. So really just thinking ahead of, you know, this summer, how can I build in opportunities for my child to be social, be in social situations, and continue what they've been doing all year long. So lots of different options. So summer camp is a great way to continue practicing social skills daily with a group of kids. The start of it is most likely going to be meeting new kids. Um, I know some kids that are going with a friend, and I think that's so amazing, but they're still going to be meeting new kids. Um, it's a way for them to find others with similar interests, especially if the camp is interest based. So if they're going to a sports camp, there likely will be other kids there who like sports, build new friendships, and it will create a new summer routine and structure for your child. But entering a brand new space can be challenging, thinking of all the changes, one, the people, two, the physical setting, three, the routine. It could be a change in expectations. So maybe at school they have one set of rules and maybe at camp they have a different set of rules. So it's just a lot of changes for kids to take in all at once. So here are some tips to help your child be as successful and comfortable at camp as possible. Trying to find a camp that's a good fit. So considering the type of camp, the staff to student ratio, and the staff to student ratio that benefits your child most, and any accommodations they can provide. preparing your child before camp. So using a calendar or visual, showing them when camp will be. Um, Show them pictures of the camp, the space, the staff, anything you really have access to, I would advise sharing with your child. For older children, I'd really encourage them to go on the website, show them the website, show them the space, show them if there's an FAQ and your kid's a bit older and can read those FAQs, let them read the FAQs. And even have them make more questions and say you can send them to the camp or you'll find out the answers for them. I just think going into it, the more they know, the more comfortable they will likely feel. And also advocate for your child. So don't be afraid like to reach out to the camp, tell them what you think your child needs. Send them things that have worked throughout the year. If there's strategies or tools, send them like they can use them and it will make everyone have a more positive experience. And it will really start off the camp with a good rapport if the staff already know as much about your child as possible. So another great way to socialize in the summer is planning playdates or hangouts for older kids. Just a tip with this, like summer is going to fly. Really try to think in advance, plan them out, schedule them, and if possible, make them reoccurring because that just alleviates some of the work for you, and it will increase the consistency of them. So before school ends, maybe ask your child, who in your class would you like to have play dates with? There might be kids they already identified, but there might be a new classmate that they this summer are interested in hanging out with. Depending on your child's age, you can start to prep them to exchange info, or you can connect with the parents if that's more appropriate. But really taking the steps so that everything's set up when school ends, and the play dates can happen. Um, and I think if your child is able to, or maybe not yet able to, but you know they will be able to support them in being independent in planning their own hangouts. So even if that is starting with like, okay, you identified you want to hang out with Joey this summer. Step one, do we have Joey's, phone number if your child uses a phone to text or call? Step two, do you know, is Joey going away to sleepaway camp this summer? Is Joey around this summer? Really breaking it down in steps, but having your child, also do some of that more independently. Oh, you ask Joey tomorrow if he's going to sleepaway camp this summer, and then we'll do the next step together.
And I think the planning in advance is so important to help alleviate any like disappointment that may come. So if you are trying to see a certain friend over summer and maybe they've got a couple vacations planned, if you plan in advance, then you don't have to worry about that kind of like inevitable disappointment. And the younger kids, there may be a little bit more emotions involved if they can't see the people they really want to see. So I love that planning in advance and really getting those kind of on the calendar and making that something else that they can look forward to as well.
Definitely. And I know there's things I'm like, oh, I'll reach out to them next week. I'll reach out to them next week. And then the summer's over. So I think it also is just like a prompt for other parents because other parents are looking for the same thing. It's just, it's not always number one priority for everyone right now. But really just getting the ball moving.
Cool.
So that kind of ties into what I was just gonna say. With everyone's schedules, vacations, it really can be challenging. But that's why we're saying like start now, identify those peers, get that info, put dates on a calendar. So, like make it visible in your whatever calendar you use for work, other events, classes, whatever you do, put them on that calendar so that it's really engulfed in everything you do. If your child is coordinating their own schedule and, is a bit more independent, I would recommend using a calendar or format that they're familiar with that they can also access to give them more of that independence as well. I think something, if possible, that alleviates, some decision making on other families' parts is if you can host, offering to host, because if you're offering the kids to come over, for other parents, that might be an easier option. And taking the initiative because parents are looking for it, but again, someone really does have to start that. And I think that's the same for older kids. Like we work with a lot of middle school students and they all want to hang out, but they're like, oh, he didn't ask me. He didn't ask me. She didn't ask me. So somebody does have to take that initial step, put themselves out there and try to connect. Okay. Also just getting outside. So these are just great opportunities for kids of all ages, younger, but I think through middle school, just to practice social skills. And if your child you anticipate having difficulty in one of these settings, or if you want to try to have them be more independent using a skill in one of these settings, role play at home before you go, or review at home before you go, like the expectations. So a good example of this would be like, oh, if your child goes to a restaurant all the time and is great at a restaurant, but this summer you really want to get them more independently ordering their own food, directly speaking to the waiter. Before you go, like let them know that expectation. Don't get there and then say like, oh, you order. And maybe practice if it's gonna make them feel a little nervous or something like that, maybe you review the menu before you go. Oh, you already know what you want. So when we get there, all you have to do is order it. You don't have to worry about reading the menu and picking your meal or whatever it may be. Um, so playgrounds is a great opportunity for kids to socialize, navigate a lot of different things that come up. Restaurants, cafes, grocery stores, that could be a great way to even if you want to have your child pay or say thank you or, some steps in it. Beach and pool, if there's community centers nearby that have programming or just like places available where your kid can hang out, they'll likely meet other kids. And then I always recommend looking into like local clubs, classes. I feel like there's usually a lot going on, but it might take some research. So just finding something that you think might work for your child. So if you are going on vacation or you're going to be traveling a bit, there are a lot of opportunities. So you modeling social skills. So any step along the way, checking into a hotel, greeting people, all of that is great to model for your child. Encouraging interactions. So if you're at a pool and you see other kids nearby, encouraging your child to say hi or join in play. Or even if they don't want to, just like modeling that you can say hi. I just got back from a vacation and I know in the pool kids were really interested in each other's toys. So that's just like a great opportunity to like model the language. Like, if you see a child and oh, it looks like they like your bucket. Like, do you want to share your bucket with them? Oh, it looks like they have a boat. You have a boat at home. Just different ways to kind of encourage that interaction, model the skills. And you can also research in advance because depending on where you go, there might be programs or clubs or classes available that your child can participate in. And that could be a great opportunity. But again, I would say once you find out about it, just prep your child. You know your child best. So just let them know what you think they need to know that would help them be as successful as possible. So, these are all ideal situations. Would be great if they all work out perfectly, but some of them may not work for you. So these are just some things that I've heard before and ways to try to get ahead of these and navigate them. So if your child doesn't have peers from school that they can connect with over the summer, that can happen. So you can use social media, joining a parent group and connecting with other families that live nearby could be a great opportunity. You can offer to meet at a park to start or something like that. I do think there's so many parents out there looking for that connection who do not have, the peer group established. So I think just using social media for that use is a really, really, really great tool. Maybe your kid just wants to relax this summer and they're like, I worked hard all year. I want to hang out at home and play my video games. So they're not really open to your ideas and maybe they're giving you a little bit of pushback. So I would build in plenty of time for that relaxing or their preferred interest, validate that they did earn a break, they did work hard this year. Make sure they get that time because summer is supposed to be a fun break. But balance it with opportunities to keep practicing social skills because we want to keep in mind that transition back in September. Like summer doesn't last forever, so they do need to go back to school. And the more they do have that practice, the easier the transition will be. So maybe making a calendar with them for days that are their days. Oh, you do whatever you want these days. These are your relaxing days. These are your this days. And then days where, okay, and on these days you're going to do X, Y, and Z. And setting an expectation. I think that just everyone does better with a set expectation. So just letting them know you understand where they're coming from, give them, what they're asking for, and then in return, this is what I'm asking of you. Or if your child is spending most of their time this summer with adults, if you're traveling and it's, adults in the family and there's no other kids going to be around or something like that, Adults can be an excellent resource in helping your child develop their social skills because adults can play games, they can teach new games, have conversations, facilitate discussions, read books that focus on friendship, social themes. So I think just using whatever situation you're in and trying to build in opportunities for that practice as much as possible. So I think just to get started in like what to do next for summer, setting some goals. So for younger children, as the caregiver, a lot of this will fall on you. So, set realistic goals for yourself. What can I do this summer? What does my schedule look like? What is feasible? And that may look different for everyone, but maybe it is that one play date a week. Every Wednesday, we're going to go to the playground. And again, I think building that routine and consistency just is more likely to make them happen. Putting them on the calendar, letting your child know. I think there's some accountability to it. Like we're going to do this. Make it fun, try to make it as fun for you and your child as possible. It is summer, so making the most of it. And I would say to use like a format that your child is familiar with. So if you're going to try something new, that's great, of course. But then I would prep your child, especially for those really little ones, like, oh, this summer we're going to like this new park. Maybe show them pictures if you think they need that prep. Or day one, don't expect them to be independent at a new park or something like that. If you're going somewhere they are familiar with, I think there can be a little bit of a higher expectation. But just keeping in mind, the whole school year, they did probably have a lot of familiar routines. So anything you're doing this summer that is new, is okay. Just giving them that prep. And if there are things that you can continue from the summer that are familiar, that also is great because they would likely be a little bit more independent. For older children, try to have them set their own goals. Scaffold as needed, provide support as needed, but I think it's great for them to have some ownership of their own goals. And then link what you're asking them to do to reaching their future goals. So if they say, for summer, my goal is that I'm gonna practice tennis because in the fall I'm gonna make the tennis team. Then when you like encourage them to do X, Y, or Z, you can link it to that goal. And sometimes for kids, it might not be explicit, like, well, mom, I'm not playing tennis, so how am I reaching that goal? Oh, well, when you're on the tennis team, you're gonna have to meet a whole new group of kids and work together. You're gonna have to take turns. You're gonna get feedback. There might be some tricky social dynamics. So this is all gonna help you be a better part of a team or something like that. Use a system that's clear and works for them. If they're setting goals, it would be ideal if you talked about them once and then your child went on and did it. But I think laying out some framework that is clear, these are like what we're working towards this summer. If their goal is to make one play date a week, even if they set it up, then like write it on that calendar, like have some accountability, check in with them often. So, oh, I know you were going to text, Mike to go to the park. And oh, Mike never answered. Okay, is there someone else you can text? Just figuring out where they're at and try to check in. Encourage and support. We really want to keep this positive. So just coming from a really positive place. And similar for you using a format you're familiar with or physical spaces you're familiar with, think of like what your child has used all year at school, whether it's goal setting or organizational, and try to use some of them. So at school, if they have like a goal setting thing they do in one of their classes, maybe using a format similar to that. Or at school, if they have a every Friday check-in with their advisor, maybe that becomes a thing at home. Okay, we're gonna have a check-in every Friday. Just using things that are as consistent as possible to build some routine. Okay, so now you can start making a calendar. There's a link here. It's a calendar for a whole year. I've never seen it, but then as soon as I saw it, I wanted one. You don't have to be that aggressive. You can just do the summer, but I do think laying out the next few months for yourself, eliminate last minute planning. Like if you're traveling or doing something, there's already going to be so many last minute. Oh, I need to get sunscreen. Oh, I need to pack. Oh, we need to do this. So really trying to lay out when you're going where, what your plans are, and build in time for those social activities in advance, and have a clear plan and goal for the summer. And you can start start now. Now is also a good time to start because people are likely to have a little more availability, whereas once we get closer, planning those playdates and stuff might be a little trickier. And for older kids, provide them with materials, tools, support to create their own summer calendar. And this is a great way to have them add in their own, if you're giving them those days of their choice or those times of their choice, they can add those on, that's motivating for them. But eliminating the unknown about their summer can also reduce some stress, anxiety about the summer, just knowing what's coming up. Okay, and then screen time, just something to be mindful of because in the summer there's likely going to be more downtime and more access to screens that because the kids are not in school, so TVs, iPads, phones. And it's important to decide your limits and make a plan before summer, just so the expectations are clear for your child. During the school year, your child might have really limited time on screens naturally, just due to their schedule. But that might not be the same in the summer. But this is really just keeping in mind in September, they do have to go back to school and go back to that limited time. So it's okay in the summer if they're on screens more, it's okay that things change, but just keeping in mind that another transition is coming when they go back to school and likely will have to put the devices away much more. And for older kids, screen time may be a big part of their socialization, so that's okay. Like if your child's a texter and that's how they keep in touch with their friends and make plans, that's a really important tool. Just determine boundaries. So, set some expectation, and think of all the different types of tools they might be using. So some kids might call, FaceTime, text, social media, video games. Like there's a lot out there, some of which are more conducive to socialization and making plans than others. All right. And that's all. So I'm happy to take any questions if anyone has.
Turn my video off instead of my audio back on. Cool. Yeah, I think it's so important. You mentioned it many times, but there is that transition back at the end of summer. And I feel like we could almost like flip this presentation and be like the transition back to school. And if you have that kind of, not like a schedule, but you kind of stick with some general routines and practices in summer, it's going to not only make your life easier now if you're preparing for summer, but then again in August or September, and just kind of there's no shock to the system when they go back to this, 8 hours in the classroom type thing. And you're just really keeping up with just a routine over summer. And I think, like you said, setting those expectations of what summer is going to be like, it's going to be so helpful to curb any anxiety or fears that they may have about new situations. Because we know that like any kind of novel situation can be uncomfortable and you're not sure how to handle it. And then I love the role play. I think that's really important too, is just like, hey, we are going to the grocery store and here is what may happen. Why don't you practice? I think that's such a good idea. I think we've talked about role playing a couple other Facebook lives as well, as far as just like, you can't plan for everything and you can't role play and like get it perfect, but you can get used to situations you're not comfortable with, which I think is just really important. Cool. I'm going to check Facebook to see if we have any comments, so give me just a second. I don't see any so far. We've had a couple different views and likes, so I don't see any questions. So if you do have any questions, feel free to drop those in. We do have a couple more minutes, and while we see if there's any questions that anybody has, Jackie, do you want to tell us a little bit about like the summer offerings at Social City? Do you guys have some summer groups?
Yeah, so we offer weekly groups that would meet once a week, let's just say every Tuesday, afternoon hours for kids who are enrolled in a summer camp. And they are social emotional based, so really focusing on social emotional development. And then we also do have full day options, so 9 to 4, 9 to 1. It kind of mimics the camp, but really that social skills focus. So the kids are doing a lot of fun activities like they would at any other camp, but really just building in more dedicated practice to the social skills, our team, like I said, are speech therapists, so they're just giving a little more directed practice than another camp would.
Amazing. Yeah, that's a really good opportunity, especially for parents that are working and may not have time during the day to really kind of work on that. I think that's a really helpful solution for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so and I think if you aren't located in New York City, because not everybody is, I think just doing a quick Google search or asking around your school counselors and some of your teachers may even know of some organizations like Social City or some camps that may be in the area that would be good. I recommend looking at like your city rec center and parks and recreation, like for most cities, especially, you know, outside New York City where you're getting into the suburbs and stuff, they typically will offer programs. I know that where I was teaching, we had quite a few programs run by the city, and then even our schools sometimes put on some summer stuff. So there's a lot of opportunity out there. It's just finding the right thing, like you said earlier, finding what's going to work for your schedule and for your kid and their specific needs too. So just a couple other places to look as well. Cool. I don't see any questions coming in, which means we covered it all. We did review this, so we tried to make sure that we covered everything, but I think there's just some really good tips and techniques in there. Like I said earlier, if you are watching this on a recording and you weren't able to join us live, please feel free to drop any comments into the comment section below, either here or on YouTube, and I'll make sure that either Jackie or myself answer those. I'll email them over to her, but thank you all for joining us today. I think that's really exciting. We haven't really talked about a topic like this, so I think it was really interesting to think about, you know, those upcoming situations where students are going to struggle to make that transition and how we can make it easier for them. So very cool. Well, thank you all for joining, and we will see you for our next Facebook Live in May.